Welcome to the University of South Carolina, Aiken. Welcome to the Palmetto College. And welcome to Management 378 Labor Relations. This is a whole new experience for the university in that we're offering all of these courses online so that you can complete your degree requirements, or the last 2 years of your degree requirements, online. And this is really a wonderful thing. It's going to allow a lot of diversity. It's going to allow a lot of different interactions and the way we're going to do with this. So we're all looking forward to this. If you've never taken an online course before, the key is you got to stay on top of it. I know you hear that when you go to the classroom, but when you're taking an online course, you have to stay up with the syllabus. You have to stay up with what's required. Because you don't have a chance to go get somebody else's notes, and you don't have a chance to go to the professor and say, I missed that thing you did last Tuesday, can you help me? So you really need to stay on top of this, and that's just a word of the wise. Just make sure you do that. The initial process that we're going to do here is, and the way this course is going to work, is online or on the computer. There are going to be several things. There's going to be this video that's going to cover every chapter. There's going to be a discussion board where several times a week you're going to have to go in and respond to a question that I put up there. And the question is not going to be like what's on page 47, etc. It's going to be unions, good or bad, and whatever your position is, just support it. So it's going to be those kind of interactions. And then we're going to interact with each other on the discussion board. I'm going to put a question, you're going to respond. Then you're going to respond to your classmates' responses. I disagree with Bob. Joan had a great idea here. So it's going to be very interactive there. They're going to be daily quizzes, little short 10, 15 question daily quizzes, just to make sure you're reading the book, because you've got to read the book. These lectures are going to be very short. They're going to just talk about highlighted topics in each chapter, but you certainly are going to be responsible for a lot more than that. So we're going to have that. There's going to be a paper in this class. It's going to change from semester to semester depending on what's going on in the labor movement. You will have plenty of opportunity to learn how to write the paper, what I'm looking for. So there's not going to be any ambiguity here, I hope. So don't worry about that. Once we get in this thing, you'll see how it rolls. If there are any questions, you let me know. I say that was a great suggestion. I'll start doing it that way next time. And so don't worry about this. Just take a deep breath. It's going to work. So here we go. Chapter 1, unions. Chapter 1, what is a union? A lot of you know every one of you know what a union is. However, I would bet that not one of you have ever been in a union. I would bet money on that. Number 2, I would bet good money that 90% of you have never even met somebody that's been in a union. I know my audience. We're down here in South Carolina, or we're in the Southeast. Audience is a little bigger than it usually is because of this internet capability. But the point is, you guys don't have any experience with unions. I don't really have any experience with unions, except that they made me take a bunch of industrial labor classes in my graduate work. So I'm right where you are, except that maybe I've read 2 or 3 pages more than you have about unions. If we were in New Jersey and I was teaching this exact same course, in fact, they have this exact same course at Rutgers, Labor Relations, and it's a 300 level, upper level baccalaureate management course. And I asked that question, how many of y'all have ever been in a union? I guarantee you 100% of you would have raised your hand. And if I said, how many of you know somebody in a union? 110% of you would have raised their hand. Your dad was in the union, your granddad was in the union, your mom's in the union, your sister's in the union. That's a fact of life up there. In fact, at Rutgers, there's a real good chance your professor is in the union. So we're going to learn that about the union movement, the labor movement in the United States. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason why unions are very heavily involved and concentrated in the northeast part of the United States. That's where the United States began. We landed in Massachusetts. We began in all that area up there. We moved south and west very slowly. So that's where the population landed. That's where the population grew. When the Industrial Revolution kicked in, that's where all the technology was invented and placed. And so that's why you had all this association of workers in the Northeast, because that's where the population was. So, excuse me 1 minute. I meant to turn this thing off. God, why does he call me all the time? I gotta take this, I really do. LeBron, what's up? How's the heat in Miami? Yeah, that's funny. See, that's a joke. What do you need? But I'm right in the middle of something. Yeah, I saw your game last night. I was watching. Yeah, I can help you. I can help you with that. We've gone over this. Yeah, excuse me 1 minute. We've gone over this before. Look, if you're going to post up, you got to go in hard. You know, you big sissy, you kind of just move up in there like they're going to get out of your way. What? All right, we've done. Have you been doing those exercises I told you? It was obvious you haven't. All right, look, try those, and come on, dude, you're going to have to step up. I love you too, but dude, this is tough love here. Quit being a sissy. All right, look, I got to go. Call me back. Peace. I'm sorry about that. I apologize. So anyway, where was I? Population up in the Northeast. Y'all know the history of this country. That's where everybody was. That's where everybody still is, by the way. So, I mean, you know, New York City's got 4 times the population that the state of South Carolina does. Come on. So, we have to experience labor from where it started, where it came, and what it's all about. All right, so let me go ahead and give you, this is a textbook definition. I hate those, but at least it puts us all on the same page. A definition of labor relations. Labor relations is going to be right here. It's going to pop up like magic. It's the ongoing interaction between union and employers, workers and companies that identify their common specific interests, common specific interests, and create mechanisms, ways. God, don't you worry, love that word, mechanism. Create ways to clarify, manage, and resolve conflict. Manage and resolve conflict. Here's what I think is hilarious about this definition. Labor movement, it's huge. Not in the United States, across the world. The definition of industrial relations only deals with how do you resolve conflict. That is the basic philosophy of company, union, company-employee relationship. All right, any questions? Now, I don't know about you, I've had 1,000,000 jobs in my life. I've had some really good jobs. This is the coolest one on the planet. I've had some really stinky jobs. You know, I've done everything from bag groceries to measure farmland. I've just done a ton of jobs. Some were kind of fun, some were not fun at all. But the point is, I've had those jobs, and I've had that conflict with the people I worked with. You're not working hard enough, you're not coming in on time, you're not doing a good job. And I go, well, tell me what's wrong. And well, you just need to work harder, et cetera, et cetera. So I've seen those conflicts. I've seen that conflict in, dude, I'm working my tail off, and you're paying me $3 an hour. That's how old I am. You're paying me $3 an hour. How about a little more? And they're saying, we can't pay you anymore. Y'all know that relationship. Y'all know that conflict. And it absolutely exists. So that's what we're going to look at. The definition, even though it ends with conflict, does have hope for us at the very beginning. Because it says it's an interaction, it's an exchange between management and the worker. In this case, the worker is always going to be the union, because that's what this course is all about. So it's between management and it's between the union. And it's how they interact and try to get along. And then it ends with resolving conflict. And that's the way they think that we're going to measure by getting along. But that's what labor industrial relations is. It's this process between management and the union. Now, here's the deal. Why do people join unions? We're going to have a whole chapter on how to form a union. We're going to have all kind of discussion about that as this course goes along. But the main reason that we think that people join unions is because they want voice. The number one thing, voice. They want somebody to listen to them. Unfortunately, our history of labor in the United States has been, hey boss man, I've got a suggestion. What if we did this? And the response has been, why don't you just shut up and go back to work? You're wasting my time. How many times have you heard this? I didn't pay you to think, I paid you to work. When you treat somebody like that, when you take their voice away, it absolutely drives them crazy. You want to drive your friend crazy? Don't give them voice. Ignore everything they say. You're going to drive your significant other crazy? Ignore them. Don't give them voice. When you don't give somebody voice, they basically are invisible. They basically don't exist. We cannot stand that as human beings. So the main thing union wants is voice. Just listen to me. Just listen to what I'm saying. I'm the one out there on that stinky production line. I'm the one that knows this process better than you ever will because I do it 8 hours a day. But you won't listen to me when I try to say, you know, there's a better way we could do this. You know, it's kind of hot in this plant. Have we thought about that? I really would like a better break room, you know, and so maybe you get rid of those moldy sandwiches that are in the machine. Voice. That's what unions want. And that's what that's what the contract will give them is voice. Because in the union contract, it will say, you have to talk to me. And if you sign that contract that says, yes, I will talk to you, then it is a contract, just like any other contract. So that is the biggest thing unions want. That's the biggest thing employees want, voice. Treat me like a human being and at least listen to me. Now, there is another thing that unions give people, and that is job security. They think there really is no such thing as job security. You know that. But it gives you a little more job security than if you had no union at all or no contract. It gives you at least a recourse. However, there is no job security anywhere, anytime, and we're going to talk about that later on, but you just need to know that from the get-go, that the unions do not guarantee jobs. They do not promise that you can have this job forever. That is absolutely a myth. Now, there's an opinion about unions in the United States. You've got one, I've got one. Let me go to the facts right now. 12% of the employees in the United States are union members. 12%. You go, well, that's not very small. I mean, that's not very large. Good gracious, that's not very large. But it is. It's significant. The Hispanic population in the United States is 12.5%, 13%. That's very significant. African American population in the United States is 12.5%, 13%. That's significant. The labor force in the United States that is a member of a union is 12%. That's significant. It's not huge. It's not large. But it's big enough to make noise. It's big enough to get people's attention. So only 12% of the population of the United States workers are members of the union. That's down from a high around 1935, which was the height of union activity in the United States, where it got to almost 40%. Not quite, but it was almost 40%. After World War II, it started declining. We're going to talk about this later, but it started declining. 1980, about 20% of the workers in the United States were members of a union. Now, 12%. I mean, there has been just a sharp decline of union activity, union membership in the United States, and there's a reason for that. We're going to talk about that. That's what the whole purpose of this course is. Let's look and see what the facts are, and then let's me and you try to figure out, well, what caused that? What is the reason behind these things and the way they happen? All right, so 12% of the United States is a member of the union. However, recent surveys have shown that 48% of the United States approve of the fact that you can have a union. Now, that's a real mildly worded question, but the point is, you know, unions aren't terrible. If you want to be in one, be in one. I'm not in one. I don't want to be in one, but yeah, it's all right to have unions. That same survey showed that 45% of Americans said, no, I hate unions, we don't need unions, I wish they weren't here. So we're basically just dead even on this fact of unions. Again, only 12% of the workers in the United States are members of unions. So the idea of industrial relations, the idea of union membership, it has certainly dwindled, and it's kind of leveled off at 12%. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to try to figure out why that's going on. Here's the deal. I believe there is legend, and I believe personally, I don't believe it because there's a law, but I believe it personally, that you have the right to start a union if you want to. I also have the right, I also believe that we have legislation, federal legislation on the books, which says you have the right as an American citizen to start a union. Now, let me stop right here. You can try to start a union. Let me rephrase that. You have the legal right to try to start a union. A lot of attempts to start a union fail, and we're going to talk about that process. That is a legal process. It's not like, hey, I think we ought to be a union and boom, you're a union. There is a legal process to be identified as a union. So don't have a misunderstanding now that I walk in today at USC Aiken and I say, I think we ought to have a union, and boom, we have a union. That is not the way it works at all. It is a democratic process. It is a majority process, and it's very difficult. So just understand that. I believe that you have the right to try to start a union. We have federal laws on the book that also say you have the right to try to form a union. And if you decide to try to form a union, then this is the process that you must go through to be recognized by the United States, by the company that you work for, as a union. So it's a very, very focused process. The policy is very tight, and you're going to know all that before this is over. All right, these are just some big basic facts right now. There are 3 ways you can join a union. Number 1, a non-union employee, me and you, we're not in a union, we work for a company, we can try to start a union and maybe succeed. And if we succeed, that's one way me and you can join a union. We're not in a union now. We think there ought to be one. We do all the legal process. We get accepted. We get the majority vote. Boom, we are now a union. That's one way I can join a union. Another way I can join a union is I can go to work for a company that has a union in place. And when I join that company to work for them, I can also join the union. That's another way for me to become a union member. Third thing, it may be required that when I go to work for somebody and that company has a union, that I am required by my employment to join that union. In other words, if I go to work for company A and they have this union, I have to join that union. And if I don't join that union, I have usually, and we're going to talk about this later on, I have about 30 or 40 days to join the union. And if I don't join the union, I'm gone. I cannot work here anymore. So those are the 3 ways that you can join a union. You can be a non-union member and voluntarily start a union. You can join a company that has a union and voluntarily join that union. Or I can go to work for a company that has a union and be required to join that union. 3 ways. And we're going to talk about whether we agree with that, whether we don't agree with that. See, that's what this course is about. I don't give you those 3 things and go, here it is, and accept this, and that's the way it is. That's not what education is about. Here's the law as it stands now. You decide whether you agree with that or not. So this whole course is not about pro-union or anti-union. Unions are a fact of life in the United States business. You might not work for a company that has a union, but I guarantee you, your company is going to bump up with other companies that you need that do have union activity, and so you need to understand about that. All right. The labor relation process. The labor relation process has got three basic components. Number one, recognition. This is where your company recognizes the legitimate right and responsibility of a union representation. Recognition means you have gone through the process. It's laborious, and we're going to talk about it, so don't worry about that right now, but that you have gone through the process established by federal law. You have done everything it said to do. You have had a majority vote. This is all majority rule. This is no dictatorship. You have had a majority vote that won, and now you are the union, and you have to be recognized by your company according to federal law. So the first step is recognition. The second step is negotiation. Now I'm recognized as a union, step one. I'm recognized as a union. They can't say you don't exist. I do exist. I won. All that gives me, all that work we went into forming this union to be recognized by the company as a legal entity, all that now gives me is the right to negotiate. It does not give me the right to a contract. It gives me right to negotiate. I now have the right to negotiate a labor agreement, including appropriate strategies and tactics which are going to help both of us, or in some cases, as they look at it, hurt both of us. So it gives me the right to be recognized. The fact that I'm recognized now gives me the right to negotiate. Let me say this right now. The right to negotiate is not the right to sign a contract. I can go to a car dealer and negotiate till I'm blue in the face and walk away without the car. So because I'm negotiating does not mean there has to be an agreement or a settlement. All it says is you have to negotiate with me. If I've been recognized through the legal process, you have to sit down at the table and at least hear my side and try to negotiate this contract. So recognition, negotiation, and the last one is administration. If we do negotiate a contract that both parties sign, let me say this right now about contracts. When you hear either the labor union or the company fuss about the contract, they're complaining about something that they signed voluntarily. So my question is, why are you fussing? You agreed to this. If you did not like it, why did you ever agree to it? So once you have negotiated and once you have signed that contract, now we need to administer the contract. We look at the negotiated labor agreement. What did we negotiate? What did we agree on? And with both sides, the company and the union, need to administer that contract to make sure that both sides are following the contract to the letter of the contract. So that's the administration part of it. Because it's one thing to negotiate a contract, both parties sign it, and then neither party follow that contract. And you have very, very focused areas on both sides, in management and in labor, that are constantly reviewing that contract and going, that's great, that is really good. We're following this. Or to say, this stinks, dudes, y'all are not following this contract at all. The company's saying, union, you are not doing the work you said you were going to do. You are not following the contract. The union will look at the company and go, you're not following the contract. It said we would not hire any replacement workers. You were hiring replacement workers. So it's all of these things that both sides absolutely follow. They really do. Because neither side wants to come up to the issue that, no, we're not following the contract and that's okay. Both parties, once they sign that, really want that to be signed, to be followed, to be set policy for the company and the union. So this is just a precursor to Chapter 1. This is just kind of in general. We talked about a definition. of what labor relations is. What else did we talk about? We talked about the fact that people join unions because they want voice. We talked about the popularity of unions, how it has fallen since the heyday in 1935. And right now it's about 12% of all working employees are members of a union, which is the lowest it's ever been, ever been. We talked about the 3 ways that you can join a union, 3 ways you can become a member of a union. And we talked about the 3 basic functions in the labor relation process. We talked about recognition, negotiation, and administration. We're going to talk about union structure on down the line. We're going to talk about a million things on the line. But the point is, here's the first little volley into labor relations. Here's the basic definition. Here's the process that we involve ourselves in. And here are some of the basic functions of what the labor relations is all about. So anyway, that ends chapter 1. Read the book. Remember, you got to read this book. There's not going to be a lot of lecture. This is a little tiny piece of chapter 1, what I went over today. So have a great day. Read the book. Do your discussion board. Peace.